This episode is brought to you by Squarespace.
What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to yet another King James episode. Now, today we're going to be talking about my secret stash of film cameras. This is a little collection that I have been working on that I haven't really brought to the channel just because it's something that I didn't really feel confident in showing off until now. Now, as of late, I've gotten a few cameras that I have added into this collection, and I think I'm finally ready to show you guys this little thing that I've been working on here. And so today, we're going to be talking about my secret film camera collection. But before we get started, if you are brand new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below for more film photography content, and also drop me a huge like if you want to support in the most free way possible. But without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Alright, so in this collection we have a total of 5 different cameras, and I am still missing a few that I want to add in later on, but as of right now I will be showing you guys my updated collection. And no, it's not a rangefinder collection, it's not a Leica collection, folks. Today I am going to be showing you guys my Nikon film camera collection. So we have 5 total cameras in here, and I'm going to get started with the ones that you guys probably have never heard of or seen on the channel first, and then move over into some of the ones that are a little bit more, I guess you could say, known. Alright, so the first and only point and shoot of this collection, folks, is this guy right here, the Nikon L35 AF. Now, the L35 AF is one of those point and shoots that are absolutely iconic. It's up there with the AF35M. In my opinion, the quality goes as far as the Olympus MJU2, the Stylus Epic, maybe even the Yashica T4. That's kind of where I would categorize this film point and shoot. Now, the camera that we have in front of us is the Nikon One Touch L35 AF. There are a couple of different versions and iterations of this particular camera, but they all have that 35mm 2.8 lens that everyone knows and loves, and it's a little bit more boxy than some of your traditional smaller 35mm point and shoots. Now, one reason why I really like this camera is because it's not only extremely consistent and that on-camera flash, this point and shoot has a lens that is probably one of the sharpest out of all the point and shoots I've tried, and time again, it's never disappointed. It always hits really hard, and it's one camera that I will never get rid of. So if you guys have the opportunity to, even try or pick up a Nikon L35 AF, it's a camera that I would highly recommend. So there it is, the first camera, the Nikon L35 One Touch AF. Alright, so moving over into the next Nikon camera. This is one that a lot of you guys do not know I own, but it is a complete sleeper. And that camera, you guys, is none other than the Nikon N60. Now, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, like, what in the world is that? It's not one of the more known Nikon cameras, and I gotta agree with that because the N60 is one of those, I guess you could say, more modern film cameras. It resembles a DSLR a lot, just with the body shape and everything, but the N60 is in the category of like the F80, the F100, those electronic controlled Nikon cameras. Now, this particular one you can find online for dirt cheap. Not a lot of people are paying too much attention to the N60, but a couple of things that I really like about this is that, one, you can still shoot it with all of the Nikon glass. And so right here I have a Nikon 28mm 2.8 lens, one of my favorite lenses for the Nikon system. You can put autofocus lenses on here. Pretty much anything with that Nikon F mount you can throw onto this camera, and it still functions the same. It has all of the different modes like manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, and even a full program mode, which is a great feature for people who maybe are just getting into film. The grip is really nice, it feels really bulky in the hands, and so if you're looking for sort of more modern 35mm point and shoot that could take Nikon glass, this is probably the one I would go for just because of how dirt cheap it is online. I mean, you could find these anywhere between $15 to $30 max. So there is that camera, folks, the Nikon N60. So with those 2 cameras out of the way, the next 3 are gonna be film SLRs, more of the manual and more classic looking Nikon cameras. Now, the next 3 cameras are some of the most robust, reliable film cameras that I've ever owned, and there's a reason why they are in this collection. But before we get into that, you guys, I wanna give a huge thank you and shout out to our sponsor for this episode, the good folks over at Squarespace. Squarespace is your all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Now, as a photographer in 2023, one of the greatest ways to stand out from the crowd is to have your own professional website. Now, luckily, Squarespace has all the tools you need to get started within a couple of minutes, from award-winning templates to a dedicated page for a portfolio and an e-commerce shop, and one of my newest favorite features, the appointment scheduling tab, where clients can book you based off of your availability and schedule. This is game-changing for photographers out there who don't want to do the back and forth emailing. With the appointment scheduling tab, your clients can see when you are available for booking. So if you guys want to get started today with your own professional website, head over to squarespace.com/kingjibs and enter promo code kingjibs at checkout to receive 10% off your first purchase of a domain or a website. Huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode. Alright, so now we are moving over into the next three film SLRs, starting with the one that I feel like is the most accessible out of the three. Alright guys, so this is the camera right here. This is the Nikon EL. Now this camera is amazing because it's one of the first Nikons that allowed you to have aperture priority in your camera. So you have shutter speeds up to 1/1000th of a second. It takes that Nikon glass that everyone knows and loves, from the bayonet mount as well as the AIS. And the viewfinder, you guys, is a 92% coverage, which means it's really large and big, very suitable for people with either poor eyesight or people who wear glasses. I mean, just look at how beautiful and gorgeous this camera is. That viewfinder right there is nice and large, and it's just a handsome camera overall. Now, a couple of things about this one in particular is it does take a little battery. It takes the PX28, the same ones you find in the Pentax 6.7. But folks, it does have a mechanical shutter if your battery runs out at 1/90th of a second. With the Nikon EL sporting that aperture priority mode as well as the built-in light meter, this camera can be great for not only beginners but seasoned pros who are looking for a very affordable but robust film camera. And that's the reason why this one has made it into my collection. Also folks, I have the Nikon 35mm 2.8 on the front of the camera here. Before we move on to the next camera, I just want to show you guys this little lens that I have for the Nikon system. It's a Vivitar 28mm 2.8 lens. This one, by the way, is really good if you are looking for an alternative to the 28mm from Nikon. Now the next camera up, folks, is the Nikon FTN. Now you guys have seen this in a couple of recent videos where I thrifted it, and guys, I have completely fallen in love with this camera. It's a complete manual camera. It has shutter speeds from bulb all the way up to 1/1000th of a second, and the only thing that the battery does operate is the light meter. Otherwise, you guys, this camera can last in the winter cold, in the hot summer, in the rainstorm. Folks, this camera is going to be there and probably outlast me. Now, of course, it takes that beautiful Nikon glass. The one that I have up on here is the Nippon Kogaku 50mm 1.4. And folks, this is all made in Japan. And what makes this camera special to me is all of these super small details that make it incredibly unique. So the first one here, of course, is the shutter speed, which is gonna allow you to pretty much be selected here on the lens barrel. Now there's this tab here on the other side that you kind of flip and adjust. So everything you need to shoot is right here, ready to go. Another thing, folks, is that frame counter. The frame counter looks like the one on the Leica M3. And it's so classy. It has that nice little window and that contrasty red with the white and black background of the film counter here just makes it look like a camera of luxury. Not to mention, folks, on the FTN, I don't know why a lot of other Nikon cameras don't have it, but that on-camera light meter where it shows you right here up on the front, that is unique to the Nikon FTN, and it's something that makes this camera, again, like I said, really special. But other than that, you guys, the FTN is a workhorse. It feels very sturdy. It does have a little bit of some weight to it, but eventually I do want to make a full review of this camera because I don't think, this video is giving it its justice or giving it its flowers. So if you guys want to see that, definitely leave a comment down below and also drop a like to let me know. All right, so now we are at the very last camera, and folks, I just want to preface this by saying this is probably my favorite Nikon of all time. I don't think a lot of you are going to be surprised with what it is just because I've had it now for maybe 5 years or so, and I've talked about it constantly on this channel, giving it its praise. And that camera, you guys, is the iconic and legendary Nikon F3. Now, to me, this is the golden standard of film SLRs. I mean, it has shutter speeds up to 1/2000th of a second. Yes, it does take a battery, but it takes those small Energizer 357 batteries, the LR44s. It has aperture priority. It has a built-in light meter. The advanced lever has 11 ball bearings, so that advanced is extremely smooth. It is the best feeling advanced lever in my opinion in any film SLR. Now the F3 is a professional camera, and so it has a ton of different features, just like the removable viewfinder, that allow you to customize it to your liking. So this right here is the high point viewfinder, and you can get different finders for this camera, but this is probably what it's most known for as well. It has that waist level viewfinder that everyone knows and loves. So you know, when you take landscapes, or if you're doing something like street photography, you can take this top off and compose. You can get different focusing screens, you can get different viewfinders, and there are a ton of different options out there for you to customize this camera with. But I gotta be honest, the reason why I think I love this camera the most is probably because of the aesthetic. I mean, look at how gorgeous this thing is right here. Everything from the knobs, the shutter, the advanced lever, the placement of the film ISO selector right here is just gorgeous. And I've made a review on this channel before. This camera was designed by a famous Ferrari car designer, if I'm not mistaken. And so there's that nice little red stripe right there. And so of course it's going to look like a very handsome camera. You got a little double exposure feature right here. It's just an insane camera, you guys. So this right here is the last of the Nikon collection. I do want to add 2 more pieces to it to kind of complete everything. But with that said, as of right now, that is my Nikon film camera collection that I've been keeping a secret from you guys for a couple of months now. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section down below what Nikon cameras you have, or which ones you guys want to see me add to my collection. If there's any other sleepers out there, let me know and drop a like down below. But that's gonna wrap it up. I'll see you all in the next one. As always, the Nolta Gang.